first time we've had Meet Candidates Night. I'm Cheryl Gall. I sit on the library board. We have a number of board members. If you want to stand up, please. Library board member. Yay. It's our goal to be a source for unbiased information, so we thought this was a good way to do that. We had invited 8 candidates tonight. We have 4 that have given us the pleasure of their company. So I thank them very much for coming. I know you're very busy and we appreciate you taking the time to come out to little Brandon Ortonville. The first thing we're going to do is ask each candidate to come up, introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their platform, about 10 minutes per candidate. And then we are passing papers around for you to put questions on. So if you will do that, if we have time, we may take some questions from the floor. We were just trying to give everybody an opportunity to submit questions. And then once that's over, we have refreshments here, and we'd like to have some time where you can have some one-on-one discussions with the candidates. So thank you again for coming. We appreciate it. And our first candidate I'll introduce is Teresa Faulkney.
Okay.
She is running for State Senate of our 24th District. Oh, and just so you know, on the table over here we have our public library brochure that tells you what's coming up now in the fall. And then we have the voter's guide. So if anybody wants more in-depth information on voting for the 2022 election, feel free to take one. I will get this out of your way.
Hi, my name is Teresa Fooney, and I'm running for State Senate in District 24, which includes your area here. Who am I? I'm a wife, a mom, a grandmother, a sister, and I'm a Democratic candidate. I have 2 offspring. I have to call them that now because they're too old to be called children. 1 grandchild and 1 on the way. I have 28 nieces and nephews. I have 32 great nieces and nephews. We have our own community, and we have both sides of the ticket. But we get along. We manage to have conversations, we manage to gather, we manage to have fun and spread love. So if we can do that, I think pretty much everybody can. I've lived in Oakland County my entire life. The first half in southern Oakland County, in Royal Oak and Southfield. The second half in northern Oakland County. I'm a resident of Orion Township, and I've lived there for 35 years. You guys do the math. I come from a very large family, needless to say. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. The big question I get asked is, why am I running? I'm running because I'm tired of being frustrated with what's happening in our state, in our community, in our legislature, and in our personal lives. Many of us have lost friends over what's going on. There's so many issues that people just can't discuss on a reasonable level. Instead, we end up in screaming matches. In our legislature, things remain shelved in committee. They can't be discussed in committee or brought to the floor. The people have no voice when things aren't discussed. What are my strongest issues? Voting rights. Voting should be easy and accessible for everyone. When we cast our votes, we should be confident that they're going to be counted and accepted by all the candidates. Elections are how we represent our democracy, and if you can only accept the election results when you win, everybody loses. It's not democracy, it's autocracy. The idea that a legislature would ever consider overturning an election is really, really repulsive to me. And that seems to be what's coming down the track. The Supreme Court right now is working on a case that may give our final election decisions to the legislatures of our states. And they'll be the deciding factor. And in that case, our votes may not count. My second biggest issue is the right to make personal choices in your lives, including reproductive rights, family choices, bodily autonomy. They should all remain personal. Government and religion should not weigh in on our personal life choices. I'm really firm on that. When I was 19 years old when they passed Roe. I lived with Roe my whole life. And as I told you previously, I have a lot of family. I currently have a daughter that's pregnant through IVF, who is worried that something's going to happen, she'll lose her baby, and then she'll be prosecuted. That's not a good way to live. It's not a good way to carry a baby. So we need to do better. The last point I'm going to make is that gun safety should be everybody's priority, and we need to discuss it. There's a few things we need to do. We need to start with background checks, serious background checks. Make everyone that sells a gun run a background check and record a gun sale. Current federal law doesn't cover that. They only require background checks on sales between licensed parties. People with dangerous histories can circumvent the background check system simply by purchasing their firearm online or at a gun show. Now, dangerous individuals includes those that have mental health issues and are interested in suicide. I recently, within the last 2 years, lost a family member to suicide. He was 17. He bought a gun online. So I feel very strongly about that also. There's extreme risk laws we can work with, sometimes referred to as red flag laws. And it's to determine whether we should allow loved ones or the police to put a temporary hold on someone's weapons so they can't hurt themselves or others. Having a father who had Alzheimer's at a very early age, early onset, he was very aware of what was going on with him. We had to remove all the firearms from the house. He was a danger to himself. So most families won't do this. We have to allow the police and people's loved ones to get the guns out of the house. And secure gun storage. This is the easiest solution in the world. Secure the guns. Separate the gun from the ammo. Make sure the gun is put away, out of reach of children, that they can't get into it, and that someone who is set on hurting themselves can't get to that gun. A lot of the deaths are unintentional. Kids find the guns, start playing with them, and it goes off. There's no coming back from that. And we have started prosecuting people for that. Summing up, I have serious concerns for my family, my community, my state, and my country. I believe we're at a turning point in our history. We all need to pay attention and make sure some important decisions on what we want for our country and our future generations. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Again, my name is Teresa Cooley, and I'm running for State Senate 24.
Thank you. And now we also have our state representative candidate from our district, the 66th district, Emily Bush.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for coming out this evening. It's very important for people to be informed. And this is one fantastic way for people to learn about your local and state candidates. So I appreciate you all being here. My name is Emily Bush, and I'm running to be your next state representative in the new House District 66. Is everyone here familiar with what that district encompasses?
No.
From what to what? I'll tell you. So you are on the far west side, goes through Brandon Township over to Oxford Township, through Addison Township, Bruce, which is in Macomb County, Washington Township, which is also Macomb County, and then Oakland, a big chunk of Oakland Township, Oakland County. So that is your new district. A little bit about me. I am an Oxford mom to a sophomore at the high school. So one of the things I like to do is explain my why. My son was in the high school the day that a 15-year-old brought a firearm to school and killed 4 children, injured 6, and a teacher. So I know that saying that I was apolitical prior to November 30th is somewhat accurate, but not completely accurate. I've always been an informed voter. But it was really November 30th that opened my eyes to a lot of things. I'm a working mom. I've been in corporate sales for 24 years. I'm currently 9 weeks away from getting my master's degree from Michigan State University's Broad College of Business and Management Strategy and Leadership, which I feel, on top of my experience at being a high school parent and also in the corporate world, has shaped me to be uniquely suited for this job. I think it comes without saying that I too can echo Teresa's sentiments when it comes to securely storing weapons. I will say that my husband is a Marine and a retired firefighter, and we do have firearms in our home. We do care for them responsibly, especially having a teenager in the house. But I do echo her sentiments when it comes to being a responsible gun owner. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone that owns a weapon that doesn't believe in safe gun laws. So I know that I haven't encountered many that disagree with safe storage, background checks, maybe raising the age to 21 to purchase a weapon. So all of those things, again, I echo Teresa's sentiments. I thought everything was okay in public education until what happened in our school. It opened my eyes to a lot. I went down this path with a simple Google search. I said, in Google, how do you prevent school shootings? And I came across a very multifaceted approach, which a big part of that is mental health based and social emotional learning. Caring for children socially, caring for children emotionally, not making teachers and administrators and support staff mental health professionals, but teaching kids and teachers and family how to be aware of the signs when someone is in distress. I think as Americans we have become incredibly busy. I think 2-parent working homes, people aren't sitting down having dinner anymore, people aren't necessarily going to church anymore on Sundays, people are taking maybe 1 vacation a year. We have become so busy as Americans, we have forgotten how to plug into our children. So part of that is plugging into our kids from a social and emotional standpoint, checking your kids' phones on their social media, looking at their text message strings, seeing who they're talking to in their call history. I can honestly tell you that in the 2 months in the shutdown, before we went back to school, there were a lot of kids that were in distress. And mine was one of them. So I am very, very passionate about making sure that children and adults' mental health is taken care of. I think we need to destigmatize mental illness. We need to stop thinking of it as a taboo. That I can tell you for 100% certain that we have an entire community in Oxford that is now in distress. Our community is fractured, our school district is fractured, and we are not necessarily taking all the steps we can to make sure that our kids are okay. And I'm telling you, I believe that that starts at home, which I know some people would look at me and go, a Democrat saying that family values are important? Absolutely. I do believe that family values are incredibly important, but the American family is changing and has been changing for years. So if we don't keep up in the schools, we're going to churn out thousands more disturbed children who could potentially come to school and harm other students and staff. So until we start taking the time to understand how we can implement programs inside schools and in communities so that we're all doing this with each other, we're going to end up with more hurt. We've seen that. We're seeing it right now. So my other platform agenda, if you want to call it an agenda, is listening and talking to each other on either side of the situation. We have become a nation where we are so dug in on both sides, we have forgotten or we have disregarded how to talk and listen to one another. So I am on a platform of building community, public education, making sure that we have all of the right supports in place for our students, for our teachers, for our support staff, for our administration. I am for, obviously, safe gun laws and people taking responsibility for those weapons. Mental health. I don't think this is what we want for our kids, is it? We're not setting very good examples as adults. And I think we can do better, which is why I'm a mom standing up here trying to affect change. It's a big, big, big undertaking, and I just want to do right by our communities and our kids. So that's it. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and I look forward to your questions.
Now we have both candidates for Oakland County Commissioner. It's now the 7th district, which is new districts also. We have Bob Hoffman and Kristen Watt. Kristen?
You get to close this out tonight.
Ladies first, yeah.
Oh, very sweet.
I've already had two wonderful gentlemen open the door for me earlier, and chivalry is not dead in North Oakland County, so it was super sweet. I'm Kristen Watt. I am running for Oakland County Commissioner as your Democratic candidate. I want to start to all the points that have been made this evening. I don't normally write speeches. I get up, I talk from the heart. I know what I stand for. I know why I'm doing this. But last night I thought, you know what, Brandon, Township in Ortonville, I live in Holly. People know me in Holly. I'm on the library board in Holly. I'm a precinct delegate in Holly. Brandon's new to me. Brandon's I'm not saying you don't know people here, but this is new to our district. And maybe I should write a speech. Parenthood does not add up to writing speeches. My children stepped in, and you have to take care of your family, so I'm going to go off the cuff and speak from the heart again tonight. So I'm so proud to share with you all that she's the real deal. She's the real deal. Bob and I don't hate each other. We are living examples that people can run against each other and probably have coffee in a month. And it is so refreshing. And I'm so proud of everyone that's running in North Oakland County right now. We are setting the bar because down 75, it's a circus and a bloodbath. And that's just why, I think that's why we live up here. We like that small town, neighbors, helping neighbors, and we can hate each other on Facebook, but when, I was there when those fires raged. I live in downtown Holly. People that used to, oh my God, they loathe each other. They were out there giving each other water. They were helping each other because that's what we do. That's why we live up here, and kind of have that sense of family, I think. And Ortonville is not much different than Holly in a lot of ways. So I feel very at home when I'm here. Everyone's been very gracious. So to give you just a quick background about myself, I have lived in Michigan almost 10 years. I'm a native of Houston, Texas. My husband was born and raised here. I came here for vacation. We moved 6 months later and never looked back. I love this state. You can't drag me out of it. And we moved to Holly about 7 years ago, and we put down deep roots. I own a business there called Thoughtful Threads. It is a women's resale boutique, which is also home to 7 other small female-owned businesses, and that's a point of pride for me. Because as women, we know we're taking care of families and homes, and with the cost of gas and groceries, people have to make those extra side jobs, and we have a lot of talented, crafty people, and that's how we get creative to keep those lights on and those bills paid. So I'm really proud to support other small businesses in my community. I have been on the library board for since 2020 in Holly, as well as a precinct delegate, and I really enjoy community service. I am involved with, I don't even know what I'm not involved in out there, but I have done park cleanups. I have helped police and fire millage committee, the Vietnam Big Wall committee. I work very closely with a lot of our veterans organizations, and I know Ortonville is also a Purple Heart community like Holly. So veterans mean a lot to me, and I think we could do 100 times better on a county level, state level, and federal level of making sure if you serve your country that you are taken care of no matter the need when you come home. And I would like to see North Oakland County quit being an afterthought in the list of priorities in this county. It's like they think we're a bunch of hillbillies that live up here, and all the focus, the money, the resources, the priority hits the south end of the county and the middle of the county, because that's where the suburbs are. I'd like to see more, I want businesses and companies to want to invest here without ruining our beautiful landscape, so that we can have good paying jobs here, so people aren't having to commute to Auburn Hills in Detroit and take our lunch and gas money to other areas of town. We need to build our tax revenue and create jobs where people can be born here, live here, play here, and retire with dignity here, and keep their dollars here. So those are things that are just important to me as a person and as a citizen who has a very multi-generational group of friends and a very wide variety of interests. I chose to run for this office simply because I believe that our communities change, our families are changing, our demographics are changing, and I'm a 40-year-old woman with 2 children who is working class. I'm a small business owner. I understand very clearly the blind spots of getting access to working capital, to getting business startup funding, and Oakland County is supposed to be there to help you with that, and I can tell you from lived experience, it was a nightmare this last year, and I almost lost my business. First year. It's ridiculous. So I thought to go, how can I fix this? You know what I did? Went down to downtown Holly, came down here to downtown Ortonville, started talking to business owners. Found out I'm certainly not the only one. Struggling, obviously, in this economy, but also to get the resources that we brag about in this county. So I can tell you this, if I were elected, the things I'd like to do to change that is to appoint a liaison to do an actual study on how we can improve and cut some of the red tape to help our small business owners, because they're certainly the ones supporting our baseball teams, our schools, our students, our vets, our firefighters, all of it. And if that were to change, it wouldn't benefit me because I wouldn't be a new business owner. You know what I mean? But those first couple years are the roughest. So instead of just griping about it, I thought I'd do something about it. So that's where it started. And then as I've learned and learned and learned, you get a crash course in local government when you start running for an office, and you have to know a little bit about everything. I don't know a lot about everything, but I do know a little bit about everything so far. And I think we have to hire and bring in the best and the brightest ethical experts to handle these issues, and we have to be able to trust them to be able to get the job done. And that's what I'm about. Economic recovery, small business recovery, and mental health. I worked at Rose Hill Center out in North Holly for almost 5 years, and I got an upfront seat to families that couldn't lose their money if they tried. Wealthy, wealthy families that would bring their loved ones there from all over the world. It does not discriminate. Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, mental health issues. And after the pandemic, it's just gotten worse. My daughter is one of those examples as well, who really, at times was unrecognizable over the last 2 years. And we just put her back in school this year, and it's like a different person. That lack of isolation is gone, that our kids need us, and our kids need us to get along. We need to be reasonable people, and we need to find innovative solutions to make sure our kids are taken care of and our schools are safe. So I'm just a mom and a small business owner who cares about our community, and I have a track record of proving that. And I have fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, and that's it. I don't have political career aspirations. I'm not trying to be a senator in 5 years. I just think that after learning to work with small local government, because I used to be a little more interested in the state and federal level, and that's when I found out what they do matters, but what your village council does, and what your planning commission does, and what your road commission does, and your county commission does, that's what changes your tax rates, that's what changes your roads, your schools, your families, your resources, and I want to start seeing those resources that Oakland County does get right brought up here. We should be having these legal clinics and vet clinics and all of this up here. We should have this on location. We should not have to be driving to Pontiac to go to Common Ground when your family's in crisis. We have to start being a priority in North Oakland County, and you have to look at those blind spots, and you have to be living some of these things sometimes to have your eyes wide open and be part of the conversation. Because if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So it's up to every citizen to be an active part of their local government and democracy. Your voice matters. And you don't have to have 2 PhDs to run for this stuff. You have to have the willingness to work hard, figure out what the problem is, find a solution, and speak it. And cut through the red tape and start letting people who've done this for years, who kind of just get complacent, and that's not a dig at you, Bob, I love you. I'm talking about as a whole. There's a lot of times, I believe in term limits, because I just want to ask, I'll end with this. Whatever job you do, whatever day you showed up, if it's your career and you love it, and it's the greatest thing you've ever done in your life, it was your passion, I don't care how much you love it, there's no way everyone does it with the same gusto. I've worked for a company for 15 years. By year 15, you need to be challenged. You need to do something new. You need to go. You can't be on your A game for 25 years. It just can't happen. That's not human nature. So it is up to good citizens in our communities to step up and pick up the torch where good leaders have left off and carry it through. And that's why I'm running. That's why Bob and I get along. That's why I'm not here to bash him or anyone else. It's that somebody else was running against him in the primary that I vehemently disagreed with. And I told him to his face, I said, it's either going to be me or you. We're not letting someone who hasn't lived out here come out here and bring that chaos. We're both reasonable, civilized adults, and we should love and lead our communities. So that's why I'm running. And I also believe, I know I said I'd end with that, but I'm going to end with this, I promise. Because this is very important. If you notice, Bob's in the hen house up here with all these women. The amount of women who are running for office in North Oakland County across numerous districts right now is unbelievable. Because in 24 years, we have not had female leadership on a county level in one of these existing districts. Ruth Johnson was the last. That was in 1996. Moms and grandmothers and women are magic. We know how to make miracles happen when we can't provide Christmas. We know how to figure out our budgets and our homes and our businesses and our kids and our classrooms. That's why we revere moms and grandmas, because we're magic. That's what we do. We're not all the best people. We have our faults. But women have a unique perspective and a unique ability to juggle 82 plates and do it with grace. And it's very important when more than half our population in this district is women that we have some mirrored representation in local government. We just have different ideas, we have different thoughts, we have different experiences. And so that's why I'm running, and I appreciate you guys hosting this evening, and I'm glad to be here in your beautiful Brandon Township Library. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Bob. I don't know about that.
Thank you very much. Before I get started, Senator Ruth Johnson asked me to send her regrets tonight because she couldn't be here because of a prior engagement. My name is Bob Hoffman, and I'm running for re-election as Oakland County Commissioner. I was born in Pontiac and raised in Waterford. I grew up at the best time in the best place with the best parents. Every father on the street was a World War II veteran, including my own and my 7 uncles. The whole neighborhood raised us, and to your point, you're absolutely correct. The families need to be stronger. But I always say our parents gave us everything we needed, but anything we wanted, we had to go get a job. I've often thought, I had the best parents in the world, and I wouldn't trade anything I have now for that childhood I had. And I've often thought that if I could spend 1 more hour talking to them, I'd give it all up. But I love being an Oakland County Commissioner because it's a job you can actually help people. One of my favorite quotes in life that guides me in everything I do is from the Dalai Lama, who said, "Our sole purpose in life should be to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them." And what's nice about this job is you can actually help people. And I tell people I dedicate my time, my energy, and my money working in my district. A few years ago, there was a family in a local land dispute with a local municipality, and they called me. And somebody suggested, call your county commissioner, Bob Hoffman. And they said, why should we call him? He's a Republican. So anyway, they called me, I went to see them, and I said, look, before I put my foot in my mouth, I'm gonna have your entire 20-acre parcel surveyed, and I'm gonna pay for it. And we found out that it was landlocked, and we knew some other issues. It took them 5 years, but we finally prevailed and beat the township that was trying to take their property. Some people, I started my first business when I was 19, my second one when I was 23, and I like to say I bought the farm 30 years ago and I'm still alive. But, so I've been a farmer also for 30 years. And every couple of years when we run at the county, and I have a 17-year-old son, people will say to me, Bob, you ever thought about going to Lansing? I go, yeah, on a field trip with my son. I don't have any intention, I don't like the politics of Lansing. I really enjoy being here. Another thing I've heard some people say is, Bob Hoffman doesn't need this job. And I say to them, isn't that refreshing? To have somebody who's not running for a paycheck. And isn't it also more refreshing to have somebody that won't be beholden to anybody? My second quote in life that I follow and think about all the time is from Winston Churchill, who says, what is the use of living if not to strive for noble causes, to make this muddled world a better place for those who will live in it after we are gone? And I try to live by those 2 quotes, and it would be nice if when we merge with the universe, when somebody says they left this place better than they found it. I want to thank all of you for your service and dedication to your community, because that's what it's all about. I call the northern part of this district out here, I call it the last frontier in Oakland County. It's a great place to live, play, and work. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of our candidates. Yes, we are the last frontier. We're the best frontier with the best library. As a member of the board, we're very proud of our library, but more than that, we're very proud of our community. our community supports our library with a perpetual millage, meaning it will be here forever. So we can count on keeping our library going, having the money we need to repair the building, buy new materials, put on programs, all of the things that our community needs and wants, and we're here to do that. So thank you to the community members. And now we're going to take questions. And Susan will be asking the questions, and if we have time, we'll also take some questions from the floor.
Looking through these questions, I can say that you all, or not you all of you, but a lot of you have the same thing on your mind. So what I think I'm gonna do is go through each one of these one by one, and then if there needs to be more specifics, I got more specific questions. So let's start with proposal 1. Would anybody like to speak to their position on proposal 1 on the ballot?
I can speak from here. Can everyone hear me?
Well, it helps with
Oh.
OTV. Thank you.
Okay. Proposal 1 is for term limits, which only adds 2 years to the maximum term limits we have now, but it allows them to serve it in one place. So if you're a representative, that will give you 6 terms in the House, or it will give you 3 terms in the Senate. If you choose to leave running for the House and run for the Senate, you can still only serve 12 years. So that's what that is. It also is about transparency, about funding. It allows more funding information to be released, and it will allow us to perhaps track the dark money that's coming into our elections. Is that?
Is that?
I am in favor of it, yes. I am in favor of proposal 1.
Sure.
One of the reasons I would never want to go to Lansing, other than I like to go home at night, I don't like term limits. I voted against them, and I think it was 1992 or whatever, because I always say the ballot box is our term limits. And some people have said to me, some of my Republican friends, they used to say, Senator Carl Levin was in office too long. I go, not for you to say. Obviously, the voters think he was doing a good job, and personally, I think Carl Levin did a pretty good job. I'm not saying I agree with all his politics. I think he's a guy who went to Washington and did become a millionaire. But I'm not in favor of term limits, because who's running Lansing now is the bureaucrats and the lobbyists. It's an absolute cesspool. And if you talk to some of the elected officials there, and the sad part of this, everything in life we know is building relationships and gaining experience. You can get so much done, you know who to call, you can get things done. I'll give you a little quick story. Davisburg Elementary School. A few years ago, David Noose was a superintendent of Holly area schools. He called me and said, we need to have a meeting with the road commission, the principal, and me, because the parents are parking along Davisburg Road. The parking lot is too small. We're afraid some kid's going to get killed. So we went in the meeting, and everything the lady from the road commission would say when we came up with the suggestion was we can't do it. She gave reasons why. We got up and she left the meeting first. I walked out with the principal and David Noose, and I said, Dave, they're going to do everything we want. He said, did you just come out of the same meeting I did? I go, you trust me, they're going to do everything we want. So I called somebody I knew at the road commission, because I've been around a long time. And that person gave me the same kind of pushback. So I said, you know what? I get it. After one of those kids runs between the car and gets killed, do you mind if I call you back? He said, we'll take care of it. 2 months later, they're out there doing it. Dave Noose could not believe they did that. That's why I'm against term limits. I just think it's wrong. And like all the candidates up here, this is a competitive world. Everything we do is competition. So I say get out and compete. Part of this proposal, what I'm in favor of, is to disclose where the money comes from. I think that's really a good thing. But now a person can serve 14 years between the House and the Senate, and now it's going to go down to 12. So it's kind of a mixed bag, and I'm not sure that I'm going to vote for it. even though it has some good parts to it. But that's my humble opinion.
I don't wait on this. And now we're at Proposition 2. Anybody want to take that one on?
Oh, you're voting for
What
Senate.
is your position?
Yeah, come on, Chief.
Okay, I get to speak.
Does it fit in there? So we've all had trouble.
Oh, there you go.
You don't want to say like
This way I can hold on when I speak. Proposal 2 is for voting rights. It is to assure the voting rights we passed in 2018 are solidified and kept and cannot be changed by the legislature, that we will put extra protection into the Constitution of Michigan. It's to ensure that communities have enough drop boxes. It's to ensure that everyone maintains their right to vote however they want, whether they do it at the ballot box or they do it at home at their kitchen table. Those are both at risk now. I worked real hard for this 4 years ago, and I worked hard for it this year.
What do you do, precinct delegate?
I coordinate the Democratic precinct delegates in North Oakland County. That's my function. That's my main love right now. Other than running for office and walking around and talking to people I don't know and making new friends. But I promote the precinct delegates, the people that come to your door in your neighborhood and talk to their neighbors and friends and ensure that people do go out and vote. We want everyone to vote. If we have a good majority in an election, you know, I dream of the day we're at 70% voting percentage. Because then we really do know it's what people want. So let's encourage them to make it easy. Let's encourage them to make it accessible to everyone. There's a lot of people that work and have to take a day off to go vote. Right now, they can vote by absentee ballot. But right now, that's at risk. So these new proposals, Proposal 2, is to ensure that those rights stay where they are. And yes, I'm for it. I'm for 3 too. I'll probably be back here.
Maybe you guys can tell me what this means. This is in part of Proposal 2. Provide the voter the right to verify his or her identity with photo ID or signed statement. So I can go in there without identifying who I am, and I can sign a statement that says that's who I am. You have to, I think, show a driver's license to,
Okay.
or I show a driver's license to probably buy a weapon, get a prescription, do a lot of things. You have to drive a vehicle. I think that to safeguard our elections, there should be some kind of verification in place. And the fact that you make somebody show an identification, that does not deprive anybody from the right to vote. Because anybody can get a voter registration ID, state card. I think it's pretty simple. And if you want to safeguard an election, know who's voting.
I can explain that.
It'd probably be best, because we're trying to keep this
Oh, can I respond?
not actually a counter debate. Let's go on to Proposal 3. Anybody want to give their position on Proposal 3?
Wait, oh, you go
Can
ahead.
we hear from all of them on the Proposal 3 at least, please?
If they-
So
if-
just limit them so we can hear from all of them, please.
Sure.
I just want to take issue with Bob calling Lansing a cesspool, because that's what I'm running for.
Oh, you know what, she's absolutely right. There are so many good, decent people there. That's the
Thank
truth,
you.
and I don't mean to paint everybody with a broad brush, because there are a lot of dedicated public servants, and unfortunately with term limits, they're gonna be gone. The Ruth Johnsons, the Jim Runsteads, and the people of the world, it's just, and they're fighting an uphill battle, especially with the transit thing, and hopefully that question will come up with tax.
Okay, so I'll talk about proposal 3. Are we moving on?
Yeah, anybody
Anybody want to address?
Anybody of our
one or
candidates who
two?
wants to talk on is welcome to.
Go ahead first.
I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to tell a story that just happened 2 weeks ago. I met someone at a campaign event who wanted a campaign sign to put in her yard. And so I said, come out to my car, walk out with me. And she said, all right. I'd just met this person. And we walked out together. It was dark. And she was walking silently next to me. And she said, can I tell you something? I said, tell me anything. People like to talk to me. I'm not sure why. But she said, I need to tell you my story because I think it's important for the work that you're going to do. She said, I went to urgent care with abdominal pain. And I assumed that it was an burst appendix. And she said, and I went through a whole physical. I went through eventually an ultrasound. And I was told that I was suffering from pain from an ectopic pregnancy. And she said I was shocked because it was nothing that I was aware of. My husband and I did not have a clue. And I was told to go to my doctor, my OBGYN, first thing the next day. And so I did. This is what she told me. And she said, I had an ultrasound. Obviously, it wasn't viable. And she said I was within hours of that becoming a burst ectopic pregnancy or an abdominal pregnancy, which could have risked her life. And she says, my own family doesn't even know that I've gone through this yet. And she had tears streaming down her face. And she said, I had to sign paperwork about what I was about to do. Can any of you guess what that paperwork was?
Oh, yeah,
What was it?
for the abortion,
Correct.
yeah,
To save her,
to save her life.
correct. She was humiliated that she had to do that. Oh, by the way, guess how long she had to wait for this life-saving procedure? Does anybody else want to guess?
4 hours.
48 hours. So, when we talk about proposal 3, when we talk about the safety of the life of the mother, when we talk about, what's that?
It has nothing to do with Prop 3, because the safety of the mother will still be in effect. My daughter-in-law had 2 miscarriages, and the fact that she had to have a partial birth abortion, like part of it was still inside of her, and they had to go in with the DNC, and the other one was an ectopic pregnancy.
Do a what?
Ectopic pregnancy.
What was the first thing you
The-
said?
The DNC.
Do you know what that is considered in medical terms?
Let me finish, but then she had to have the partial, like the abortion. And if we vote, my biggest thing is the language in Prop 3. So if we wind up
Fair enough.
voting yes on it, then a full-term baby can be aborted. Then you have.
That's not true
Then
either.
you have.
Can we let the candidate
Well,
have their say? and-
she had asked, because I made a comment, so she had asked me to explain. But I'll let her finish.
So I think educating yourself on the verbiage in proposal 3 and what that means in every scenario. She mentioned a DNC, which is a dilation and curettage. That is an abortion. So I think educating completely yourself, not confirmation bias where you're going out and looking for information to confirm what you think you already know. Talk to a doctor. talk to someone who understands the medical terminology. That is what I would advise you to do. But when it comes to proposal 3, based on the experience that I had with this young lady and many prior to this, I support yes on proposal 3. So.
I just want to restate, the library really wants to not make a debate tonight. So each candidate has an opportunity to speak on a question. What I really don't want to get into is the candidates debating each other on that same question. So once they answer the question, then we can go on to another candidate. Same with the audience. We're going to have a time after this that if you want to meet with the candidates and have more of a conversation, that is the time to do it. So, next person.
One of the perks that I've experienced when you run for the county seat is a lot of these issues. People will ask you your opinion. They want to know who you are and what you stand for. Don't necessarily have any power in certain seats over some of these things. But I've always been very transparent about this. I do support Prop 3, and I'm going to tell you why. First, as I mentioned earlier, I am from Texas. And every woman in Texas is now a second-class citizen. You can't get anything in Texas, not even barely a morning after pill. I have 2 daughters. I have been through 9 miscarriages, 2 C-sections, a tubal ligation, 2 radical surgeries to cut me open from adhesion disorder related endometriosis, and I had to beg my doctors to just get my tubes tied, much less the hysterectomy to save my life. And so when we talk about reproductive rights and feminine reproductive health, for so many years, we argue about, when life starts, when it begins, like all these things, but it doesn't end with pregnancy. If people can't have a baby and they want to have IVF and they have embryos in storage, I think we are finding across the country that it's not just about, do I want to keep a pregnancy or not keep a pregnancy? There are people who very much want pregnancies. And they still go through ectopic, they go through ruptured placentas, they go through all kinds of things that are more than just, oh, this is inconvenient for me. And women, there's a shame with it. There's a taboo. You're not supposed to talk about it. That's why we call things a DNC and not an abortion. So for me, at the end of the day, the government should not be regulating without a medical degree what is going on between really any individual. Because I can tell you right now, if any gentleman in this room wants to go get snipped, you can get it done for much cheaper with no problems. Your doctor is never going to try to talk you out of it. They're never going to shame you for it, and they're never going to make you come back for 5 visits and charge you for it to beg you to not do it. So every citizen of this country should be able to go to their doctor and make medical decisions, whether you're diabetic, whether you have cancer. You can choose not to have cancer treatment. You could choose to just let nature take its course. I mean, we have choices, but not here. And I understand that it's a very sensitive subject for people's faith and people's emotional, connections, or people who wanted babies and couldn't have them. I've been that person too. They told me I'd never have kids, and I did. But it really boils down to me that women have exact equal rights in this country to be able to go to a doctor and make decisions, whether they are, there's some that I might not agree with either. But if it means that every woman loses her rights to be equal, to be able to make these choices for herself, then so be it. So I'm for Prop 3. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, I'm going to let Bob. You want me to?
Okay. All right, let's see. This is one that came up early. How familiar are you with the North Oakland County Sanitation Drain Project, and how will you help? Is anybody familiar with that?
Are you speaking of the one where they're going to extend the sewer line up Dixie Highway, is that the
Whose
question?
question is this?
Okay. The county's just allocated, I believe it was $10 million to extend this up Dixie Highway to help some of those commercial buildings along Dixie Highway. I don't know how far it's going to extend to Ortonville. I was in the meetings when they were discussing this, but I don't know the exact map. I don't think, there are no plans that I know of to extend this into the residential areas of the community. But I know the main focus is they're partnering with Genesee County, because I think Oakland County is going to use maybe their, what do you call it, sewer treatment plant. And so there's going to be a partnership there. They're ponying up money, but that's what it's for, is to help the development of Dixie Highway. And I know it's going to impact Groveland Township, probably more than Brandon, but I'm really not sure of what they've actually come up with for the route of the pipes.
Are you for or against the Oakland County public transportation proposal? Why or why not?
Okay, this is bad government on steroids. This came to us, the County Board of Commissioners. It started out as a rumor about August 6th. Then the chairman called a special meeting on August 10th on a Tuesday at 4:30 in the afternoon. The only reason, we don't meet on Tuesdays at 4:30 in the afternoon. Our meetings are usually in the evening around 6 o'clock, so more of the public will be there. So I suspect that they did it to keep people in the dark. This is a .95 millage. It will raise $66 million a year. In my district alone, and that's the existing district now without Brandon, it'll take $3 million out of that district every year for little or no benefit. And what the county's doing is they're trying to sell this thing as if they'll tell you, if your home is worth $200,000, taxable value $100,000, you pay $95. Well, they're trying to spin that as if that's the average price of a home in Oakland County. So I raised my hand. The average price of a home in Oakland County is $349,000. So half that taxable value, you pay about $166 more a year. Then they try to tell you that this is only a 10-year tax. Well, the 10-year tax in Oakland County is the closest we'll get to eternity on earth. Because in 8 years, they will come back and tell you we need it renewed and we need more money. And when I say this tax raises $66 million a year the first year, because we know under Proposal A that your property tax go up every year based on the rate of inflation or 5%, whatever's lower. So you can count probably this year, next year, and if they don't get it under control, the max, 5% every year, for little or no benefit. All this is going to do is hurt the working class and the working poor. And there's a lot of working poor in my district. And I haven't said this to the Democrat side yet, but it will be at our next meeting. I'm going to say to them, if I came to any one of your districts with a proposal like this, like Pontiac, Ferndale, Southfield, wherever, that's going to hurt the working poor, you guys would call me every name in the book. But I can assure you and promise you I'll never do that to your district. And how dare you do that? And I also told them this and people from the state, I don't need you micromanaging my district. My district knows what they want. They know what they need, and we are servicing. And you know, we do have a duty and obligation to help those, give them a leg up. The veterans, those with special needs or disabilities, or seniors. But we are providing that help. And I think it was Bob DePalma in Groveland, I talked to him about this. And he said, I have never received one call that somebody can't get a ride to where they're going, because we provide a service. And if you think about it, I don't know what the millage rate is in Brandon Township, but let's say it's 1 mil, because I think that's what Holly Township is. They'll take that same amount of money almost and send it to the county, and the county's going to decide how this money's spent. And the worst part is they have no plan, they did no study. This is absolutely bad government. Need I say more? I urge everybody to vote no. And you know what? Let them come up with a better plan. I introduced a resolution for an opt-out. They said, no, you can't do it. I said, why not? I said, we do it with SMART. And they said, well, they set up an authority. I said, well, let's set up an authority. No, we don't have time. The SMART millage expires the end of this year. So they've created this crisis. And the way they're selling it to the SMART, people who've opted into SMART, they're selling it to them as a tax cut. Because the SMART millage is 1 mil. This is only 0.95. We're going to save you 5% of a mil. And that's how they're selling it. It's just wrong. Then they're telling people that if they don't vote for this, the seniors, the veterans, those with disabilities are going to lose all their rights. Well, that's not true either, because some of the SMART is funded by federal money for sure, and I think state money too. They can't do that. But it's just, it's not good government. It's just wrong. And I say to them, let's get, I even put another resolution in. Let's take some ARPA money. If this thing fails, and keep SMART going till we sit down and have a reasonable plan that benefits the entire county. Because I point out to them, there are great needs in the south end of the county for more transportation in the north end. But one size doesn't fit all, but you're going to take millions of dollars out of the north end and we'll get no benefit. I hope I answered you.
Which proposal is that? Was that a proposal or?
It's on the ballot November 8th.
Transportation.
Yeah, transit.
Sure.
Okay, so this is where we did a forum in Holly a couple weeks ago, and this obviously is the hot topic of North Oakland County, and this is where Bob and I agree, but for different reasons. I don't think this millage is even close to good enough, because I'm going to tell you, I don't agree with it because, as I mentioned earlier, North Oakland County is an afterthought. We are not considered at all. I have spoken, as I have been out knocking doors in many communities, not just Holly, in Springfield, in Ortonville, and Braden. There are people who currently use the contracted SMART services that we have that aren't even part of the program. They're just like this extra bus that we get to have. And we have like 60,000 people in this district, and this new millage, the only thing North Oakland's getting out of this is a little bit of extra microtransit. So that means instead of calling your village office or your whatever to get this ride to the doctor, you can call the county and get a ride. Well, how many people are one-car homes? How many people don't even know that these resources exist and that they could call the county? There's not a whole lot of communication out here about what resources are available to all of our citizens. I have spoken to people who have special needs and people, their kids who are adult and young that volunteer that can't get a ride, don't have access, they're driving their kids all over the place, and we have students across Oakland County who can get on public transportation wherever they live and decide if they want to go to Oakland County Community College. And if their mom is working and they're in a single-parent household and they might not be able to afford to go get a car, they can get a ride to school, get an education, lift their family out of poverty, or do a trade and get out. We don't have that benefit to our students out here or our adults who want to better themselves. So I have gone against my party in county government who love this millage, and I say I think we do need good transportation for our end of the county, but this millage is not giving it to us. So we've had an opt-out feature and now we don't. So there are other parts of the county that pay their taxes in that we benefit from. I'm all about us being one whole Oakland County and helping each other. But if you're going to do a millage and you want to tax our taxpayers and our property taxes, you need to include the benefit to every single citizen in this county and not leave 60,000 people out but want all of our money. So I think we need it and we're not getting it. So that's why I don't support it. And that's my answer.
Can I read a couple statistics?
It's not a debate.
I only have time for one more
Okay.
question,
All right,
so we
no
can
problem.
do this afterwards.
No problem.
Anybody else? Okay, so this is our last question. And it says, would you consider legislation to change the process of changing the Michigan Constitution?
Can you reread that question?
Sure, if I need a clarification, maybe somebody can let me know. Would you consider legislation to change the process of changing the Michigan Constitution? Whatever process that is, would you put forth legislation to change that process?
Change the process to criminal law.
Do you want to, is it
Yeah, just
clarified?
clarification on that.
Yeah.
If we're familiar with the federal government, I mean, it takes like 2/3 votes and 2/3 of states to change the federal constitution. In the state of Michigan, you can change the constitution based upon popular vote with as much as little as 25% of the population voting for it. In other words, we've got 3 very contentious issues that are dividing the state, and yet we can pass that with 25% of the popular vote. If only 50% of the people in the state vote, and that passes by 1 vote, that's basically about 25% of the electorate. It can change the Constitution of Michigan. I'm just curious if you ever think about changing the way we do that legislatively.
Well, again, at the county level, that issue will never come before us, but personally, I think it should be made difficult to change the Constitution, because once you change it, it's pretty hard to change it back. So I think you have to be careful about fiddling with the Constitution, whether it's the federal government or the state government. I think we need to have all the safeguards in place.
Once you change it, the same procedure is used to change it back, so it's not any harder. You have to collect an enormous amount of signatures to even get it on the ballot. And that's why so many propositions to change the Constitution fail, because not enough signatures are collected in the amount of time given. You have to have a large percentage of people that are willing to put their name on a piece of paper and say, yes, I want this change, in order to even be addressed and put on the ballot. So I think it's working. And I think if something gets into the Constitution that enough people are not in favor of, there'll be another petition. And enough people will sign that, and it'll be put on the ballot, and it will be voted on, and it will pass. So that's how democracy works. And if enough people don't vote, I'm sorry. I wish everybody would vote too. I think we'd have a much better idea and a much better democracy if everyone would go out and vote and exercise their right to vote. I'm all in favor of that. But I think the method we have right now is working, and it's not easy. Having been involved in now 4 petition drives, the last petition drive here in Michigan set a record number of signatures. And we'll see what happens on election day, but I think we're going to have a very high vote in November. I think we're going to have a large percentage of voters, and I think it will pass. But hopefully it will bring enough people out that will have a good decision and a fair decision. So encourage all your friends to vote. That's the best way to make sure that what you want is in the Constitution.
Just a minute. Anybody else? You look like you're ready to get up.
She said,
No.
Okay. All right, so we're going to have a meeting afterwards. Anybody who wants to speak to the candidates is welcome to stay and ask the questions one-on-one. So at this point...
My question is something we've already covered here. It seems like I have read someplace that this .9 mil for the transportation thing isn't going to be levied against people. It won't be based on, that tax won't be based on people's primary residence.
It'll be based on their primary residence, their second home, apartments, commercial, industrial, and farmland. And there's almost 30,000 acres of farmland in Oakland County. Can you
So
imagine how
I'm
much
mistaken when I said it wouldn't be levied on my primary residence.
You'll be
It will
nailed.
be
It will be nailed just like
on my
everybody
home.
else.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right,
Thank you,
next.
everybody, for your questions, and now we are dismissed for the meet and greet. Thank you.
Can we have all the candidates stand, please? And I'd like to thank them personally for coming. Some of the other candidates couldn't make it, but we really appreciate you coming and spending time with us. And thank you all for coming. This is what makes our community great. Please stay. Get your candidates.